To the Monday Awareness Upgrade with Devoted Heart Lauren. I've been remiss on this for the past few weeks actually because I had some prior commitments on Mondays at this time, but I'm glad to be back. So today's topic is honoring your word versus your intuition, or being your word versus honoring your intuition. And I think this is something that we've all experienced and come up against in certain moments where you've committed to something, right? You've said that, okay, I'm going to be there, I'm going to the party, or I'm working the gig, or whatever it is, or I'm showing up for some family thing or lunch with someone or whatever. And then the moment arrives or the day arrives and you're like, oh man, I'm really not feeling like doing anything, or I'm feeling a little bit like grumpy about something happened, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, all these sorts of things. And so then figuring out where is the balance between following through and doing what I said I was going to do, because right, that's important. We want to be our word. We want to do the things and follow through with what we have declared. But then also we have to take excellent care of ourselves, and we have to be present with our own intuitive knowing and our own evolving truth. So this is related to the yoga principle of Satya. Satya is truth. And the way that I understand truth and the principle of Satya, and the way that I share it, is that there is absolute truth and there is relative truth, or there is permanent truth and there is temporary truth. And the things that we feel are temporary, right? So I feel sad, I feel grumpy, I feel sick, I feel angry, whatever it is. Those are all temporary experiences. But the evolution of our temporary experience can also have us learn about ourselves in a more permanent and absolute way as well, right? So the truth is revealed. We understand the light of our own heart, our own desires, our own ultimate truth. And then how we act might shift. The plans might change. So I really like to share a story that was shared with me by one of my teachers about Gandhi, and how he was organizing some sort of movement protest with his followers. And at the last minute, a new piece of information was presented, and he was like, we're not doing it. We're canceling. And all his followers, all the people were all ready to go. And they were like, what do you mean? Like, everything's ready. Like, we said we're doing it. We have to do it. What do you mean? And he's like, well, he said, I am more committed to truth than consistency, right? So something is revealed that points to a truth that was previously unknown, that was clouded somehow. And then all of a sudden the truth is revealed, and it's like, okay, rather than just marching forward, even in light of this new information, let me reconsider. And he says also that God is the only absolute truth and we only know relative truths. So I think that this is really profound and really important, that there is perhaps an absolute truth, but we all have our own experience, and we all experience the truth in different ways. So we have different perspectives, and maybe overall there's a shared experience, but meanwhile we all have relative truths and temporary experiences and real perspectives that we have and that are washing over us, right? So I think it's important to acknowledge your feelings, acknowledge the temporary truth, even though it's fleeting, even though it's going to change. Right? Because it's not invalid. The things that you think, the things that you feel, they're not invalid. They're coming from somewhere. There's a reason why you feel like that. That's very real in a certain sense in this physical realm. And is that the place that you want to act from? So do you want to act from a place of a temporary truth, of something that's fleeting, of something that maybe you are working to transform? Or do you want to have the ability, or at least in your toolbox, have the option of connecting to something more permanent and being able to make a different choice? Okay, so it's a very delicate balance, and that comes back to what I originally was talking about, of being your word versus honoring your truth, or honoring your intuition, and taking excellent care of yourself in the moment based on what has arisen. So I've definitely done both, and I'm sure we all have, right? I have gone to the party that I didn't feel like going to, and I have also canceled or flaked on the party. And I think a really key point to manage this with grace and in a way that is in alignment with our ultimate truth is just communication. So how can you communicate around what you're feeling? Recently, I did a talk about not taking things personally, and I think that this couples really well with this conversation, because if I'm practicing not taking things personally, then hopefully other people are as well, and I'm inviting other people to practice not taking things personally. So if I have to cancel something at the last minute, as long as I'm in integrity as far as communicating about it, or really even if I'm not, I'm trusting that the other person is going to be able to ultimately not take it personally. It's not about you. I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm not trying to be rude to you. I am just noticing that I'm having a very deep experience with myself right now in whatever way, whether it's illness, whether it's emotions, whether it's another obligation that feels more pressing. I'm doing my best, and I'm really hoping that someone in my life that is important to me and that I care about and that I have a relationship with in whatever way, that you will ultimately, even if it takes some time, that you will ultimately be able to understand that. Right? So I'm sure we've all been in this situation, and there's also the situation of, okay, so you go to the thing, you honor your word, you show up for the meeting or the party or the whatever it is, and you're like, oh, thank God I came. I'm glad that I came. I'm glad that I kind of rallied and pushed through and tried to change my own vibration to show up and be my word, and that feels good. And I'm sure we've also all had the experience of pushing through, going to the thing, honoring your word, and being like, oh man, like I really should have just listened to how I was feeling and stayed home, right? So it's a fine line. It's a fine line. And I've also experienced with friends of mine who, showed up for me because they said they were coming, going to something, right? And I'm kind of like, yeah, it's nice that they came, like, because they said they were going to come, but I kind of wish they didn't, because they're like not really in the shape to be showing up for this. And they're grumpy, or they're having like an intense experience of their life and they're on their phone the whole time or whatever it is. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you should have just stayed home. So we're all kind of like dancing in this space where there's not always a clear right and wrong. But yes, I think communicating about it is really key. So when this situation arises, first of all, taking a moment with yourself and being like, okay, how am I feeling? Why am I feeling like this? And is this something that I feel like would be best, would be in alignment with my highest self to push through and rally and change the vibe, okay, and see how that feels. And then if it is the case that you feel like the best thing that you can do is actually show up, how can you change the vibe, right? So can you have a little dance party with yourself? Can you go run around the block? Can you call a friend? Can you take really good care of yourself, even if it's only for 5 minutes or 1 minute, and then be able to show up in a way that is really in alignment with your highest self, rather than showing up and just like, feeling like you're being dragged through the mud the whole time and be grumpy and resistant and make everybody else miserable anyways, right? And so then if you decide, oh no, actually, I think it's really best for me to cancel, for me to stay home, in my experience, the thing that will make me feel the most in alignment and in integrity with myself is to communicate about it, to say, hey, whoever, I'm really sorry, but I'm realizing that I feel this way and this came up and da-da-da, and showing love and appreciation. So, I really appreciate you for having this party or for scheduling this meeting with me or whatever it is. So showing appreciation and acknowledgement for their time, so they hopefully don't feel like you've just disrespected their time and devalued them and all of that. So communicating and then doing what you need to do, taking excellent care of yourself, because ultimately we all need to take excellent care of ourselves in order to show up fully, in order to keep being able to align with our permanent truth rather than just the fleeting feelings and situations and moments. So going back to the principle of Satya, Satya is truth. The verse for Satya says, Satya pratishtayam kriya palashrayattvam. And the principle of truth, Satya pratishtayam, one who is established in that practice, in that principle, Kriya is an action, and phala is a result, or literally it means it's a fruit. So the fruits of your actions, and Ashrayatvam is like, they will be done. It will be made manifest. So when you are established in the practice of truth, your words, your actions will be made manifest. So you are creating your truth and your reality. So within that, we get to practice the balance between the temporary and the permanent, hopefully at least being able to see the light of the permanent, of who you truly are. Even if in any given moment you're like, okay, it's feeling like I need to just do what my body is telling me, or what I feel. So let's drop in. I'm going to chant that verse for a few minutes, and I know some of you who've been with me know it. I'm also going to be chanting all 10 of the Yama and Niyama, the yogic principles, on Wednesday for the winter solstice, the darkest day of the year. And I invite you to join me. It's at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. It's free. You can sign up with the link in my profile, and it's really nice. Chanting is like a total high. It's just tricking you into breathing, really. So we're going to do some deep breathing with sound vibrations, and this meaning of overarching yogic practice beyond the physical, beyond the poses, even beyond the meditation, how to live. So dropping in, and just notice how you feel today. Without making it permanent, without making it an absolute truth, because it's not, it's fleeting, it's changing. It may or may not be in alignment with who you truly are and the version of yourself that you want to persist, but just honoring how you feel. Honoring your intuitive knowing. Bringing your hands to your heart, and then honoring who you ultimately are. So behind the clouds, and there's many days that might feel cloudy. And the verse again is Satya Pratishtayam Kriya Palashrayatvam. Let's open with the sound of Om. Exhale all the air. Inhale. Satya Pratishtayam Kriya Palashrayatvam. 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 Two more. Satya Pratishtayam Kriya Palashrayatvam. Satya Pratishtayam Kriya Palashrayatvam. Inhale for Om. Bow your head to your heart, to that inner guiding light. And may we all continue to be committed to the absolute truth, to the truth of who you truly are, and perhaps the truth in general that we're all kind of revolving around and experiencing glimpses of. And in the meantime, may we wield our temporary truth with love and compassion and kindness. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for joining me. Have a wonderful holiday week. I'll be tuning in next Monday for this talk. I hope to see you for the solstice chanting, and feel free to reach out, drop a comment, let me know what you thought of this topic. Bye-bye.